Hello Year 1, today is Friday the 26th of February 2021. Your retrieval today is, can you name any 2D and 3D shapes from your learning at the beginning of last term? So it's quite a long time ago. So what are the shapes and what are their properties? So having a little look, if there's someone there to support you, try and use that just to prompt you, but try and think of not only what the shape names are, but why is it that shape? So what is its properties? So think about the faces, corners, the vertices, edges. Think about all of that language and please use that when you're describing the shape or saying why or how you know it's that shape from its properties. And then if you can move on to your calendar, so your days of the week and your months of the year. Don't get that new question about what the season is. I'm talking about the seasons. What season was it? What season will it be? And then moving on to the learning today. So we are learning to solve practical problems for length and height. So how can we be successful? So we need to know the difference between length and height. And what we're going to be learning then is recapping what length is, what height is, and then we're going to look at some word problems, some questions, and then see if we can remember and use our learning, our knowledge and understanding of length and height to know which we are measuring or working out and how to do that, okay, and how to work that out. So recap. I would know this sounds like I'm whizzing through, but I will be a little bit because we have been through this all week and it is just a recap. It's not the actual learning of the lesson. So what do you remember about length? What is length? What does it mean? And how do we order the length of something? There's a pause here and then I've got the answer. So length is how long an object is. It is the measurement or extent of something from one end to the other, from end to end, okay, side to side. So what do you know about height? What is height? What does height mean? And how do we measure the height of something? Again, same questions, but not looking at length this time. We're looking at the height. Pause here, then I'll have the answers for you in a moment. So height is the measurement of someone or something from head to foot, from base to top or bottom to top, standing upright. Okay, so the length is side to side and height is from top to bottom. Okay. So what could we use to measure the length or the height of something? What would we use or what can we use? Again, pause here, share some ideas because then I'll reveal some of the answers. So here's some examples: bead string, tape measure, meter stick, ruler. All of those are really good for measuring length or height. Okay, obviously with the tape measure, that's a bit more flexible. That one, that's to measure almost what we call the circumference, so around something as well as the length of something. So what is standard and non-standard measurement? Again, this is just a recap. So standard and non-standard measurement. Pause here, share your ideas, and then I'll reveal them. So standard units of measurements are units of measurement that are used within each measurement system. So that just means something that is very commonly known, that everybody uses, that we have a common understanding of. So if we was to measure using centimetres, if I was to use a ruler, it would be the same as if you would use a ruler, as long as we used it accurately. Okay, so it's basically an accurate measurement that everybody uses and understands. They're all the same. Okay, so if you buy a ruler from one shop, yes, it might look different, but the measurement is the same, so it's accurate. So non-standard units of measurement, okay, are units of measurement that aren't typically used. So this means measuring with anything other than the standard measures. So not using a ruler, not using a meter stick, not using a tape measure. So it might be using, some of these are examples, it could be absolutely anything. It could be, I've seen some of you share cars, it could be using sweets, bead strings, hands, feet. Any of those are non-standard measurements because, as we discussed, some of those are less accurate. If we were to use hands, like we discussed before, your hands might be different sizes, so you might not get the same answer if you were to measure using feet. If I was to use my feet to measure the length of the classroom, okay, if I use my feet and then possibly used your feet, you might have a different number to me, okay? So that's where it's not as useful or not as good or accurate. So do we measure everything with the same measuring equipment? And we spoke about that. So if you were to measure the length of a classroom, would you want to use sweets, tiny Skittles? Would that be a good thing to use, or would something else be better? If you were measuring a house, the height of a house, how tall it is, would you want to use a rubber? Would you want to use a bead string? Okay, so think about if you were measuring a tall building or a block of flats, what would be a better measurement? What would be better use? So again, back to what we are learning. We are learning to solve practical problems for length and height. So we're going to move on to that now, because you are going to use all of that knowledge and understanding from the week and putting not just looking at length or height, okay, but we're going to be looking at both of them. So length and height. So you need to look at the questions and work out whether you are measuring the length of something or you are measuring the height of something. Okay, so that's really important. And then you're going to solve these practical problems. So you can choose a couple, you can do all of them, but remember to show your workings. That's really important, or to explain your reasoning. So the next few slides are just questions for you to work through and to attempt, okay, to try. Use whatever you need to, scribble all over if you need to print it out, however you want to work it out. Just make sure that you show your workings or you talk about how you've worked it out. So you've got pick two objects before you measure them. Can you guess which is longer and how do you know? So looking at the language there, are you looking at length or are you looking at height? Okay, here, which piece of string is longer? Explain why you think that. Again, are you looking at length? Are you looking at height? What are you going to use? Helen has a mystery object. She says, it is shorter than my work table. It is taller than my exercise book. What could Helen's object be? That's quite a tricky one. And then think about explaining why you chose that object. It could be, I know this because, so use because to explain your answer. Rick ate half a Mars bar and said, my chocolate bar is longer now I have eaten some of it. So he thinks his chocolate bar is longer now he's eaten some of it. Do you agree? And then explain why you do or you do not agree. Barrage makes a tower of 4. Ryan makes a tower of 8. Ryan's tower is something than Barrage's tower. So what is the difference? How many cubes different in their tower? So it makes a tower of 4, Ryan makes a tower of 8. Ryan's tower is something than Barrage's tower. What is the difference between their towers? How many? Okay. So now find an object. Can you find A, one that is bigger than 10 centimetres? Can you find B, something or an object that is shorter than 7 centimetres? And C, that is find an object that is double your pencil. And again, is it length? Is it height? Ask that question, every question. Am I looking at the length? Am I working out the height? Which one is it? Sal wants to measure the length of his house. Tells you in that question, if you read it and listen to it, what you are measuring. He suggests using his feet to do this. Do you think this is the best way? And explain why. That's really important to do the explaining why. I don't want just the answer, I want the reason. Here again, another one. I measure a pencil at 9 centimetres. My friend measures another at 7 centimetres. Without looking at a ruler, which is bigger? How do you know? Again, it's asking you how you know. It's not a true or false. Everything is measured in centimetres, but now it's asking you to prove it. So again, just like explaining your answer, it wants you to prove your answer, why you've chosen true or false, and how you know. Here is a ruler. Here is a book, bigger in length than the ruler. Find the length of the book. So it's already got you some measurements here. So have a little think. How can you estimate roughly how big the book is, or what could you do to work out how to work out the length of that book or the height of that book? And I think this is the last one. So gather 6 objects from around the classroom. So it won't be the classroom for you, it'll be from your home. Estimate them first, then measure them. And remember, estimate just means to guess, a good guess. Okay? And then work out the difference between what your estimate is, what you've guessed, and what the actual measurement was. So estimate first, write it down, then measure it, write it down. What is the difference between the two numbers? How close were you? And your fly high challenge, this is the last bit. Can you answer any questions independently and then give reasons or explain your thinking? If you can give reasons or explain your thinking, then that's a fly high. So well done, you. Can you show your workings? So show your workings out, how you've worked out the question. And is there another way you can work the question out? Have a try. And then once you have done that, there is a plenary with some questions just to check your understanding from this week's learning. So what have you learned about measuring? How have you measured? What ways can you measure? What is the best way to measure? And does what you use to measure depend on the object or thing that you are measuring? Think about why. Explain your thinking, and you can share this with an adult. You can tell somebody, it doesn't have to be written, you can verbalize that. And as always, there's a link here to the parent support email for you to send us all your lovely learning for us to have a look at and for your teachers to respond to. So good luck, enjoy.